Some voices change music, some voices change lives, and some voices leave us long before they're finished. One collapsed on stage and never woke up. One boarded a plane she never should have been on. One left behind a note containing just a few heartbreaking words.
Girl, you know I'll do just about anything to see you.
And one was told he had only 10 years to live, then spent nearly 3 decades proving everyone wrong.
I told myself time and time and time again, this time I'm gonna win.
Tonight, we remember 12 soul legends whose music outlived them, whose stories still move us, and whose absence is still felt decades later.
There used to be a time in my life when we were lovers.
Welcome to Retro Vinyl. These are the voices we lost far too soon.
Saw my whole life pass me by.
Number 12, Vesta Williams, Congratulations, 1988.
Why was I the last to know? I thought
She had a 4-octave voice that could stop a room cold, and somehow, for most of her career, the music industry treated her like a secret.
that we were special.
Vesta Williams was born in Coshocton, Ohio in 1958, the daughter of a Her family moved to Los Angeles, where she spent years as one of the most in-demand session singers in the business, lending her voice to McDonald's commercials, Nike campaigns, Coca-Cola jingles, Revlon ads, and the opening theme of the television miniseries The Women of Brewster Place, while most of America never knew her name.
My soul shakes, my heart breaks.
That changed in 1988 when she released Congratulations from her album Vesta for You, co-written by Williams herself alongside songwriter Tina Clark and producer Gary Prim. The song became her signature, a rich, slow, burning, quiet storm ballad that peaked at number 5 on the R&B chart. It was her only entry on the Billboard Hot 100, but it did not matter.
I thought it would have been me. Standing there.
The song connected with a generation of women who heard their own strength in her voice, and it was later sampled by Jay-Z and covered on national television as a tribute to Williams herself.
'Cause as long as I can breathe, you'll always be the one.
At the time of her death on September 22, 2011, Williams had just finished taping an episode of TV One's Unsung, a show dedicated to underappreciated artists. The episode aired on January 2, 2012, just over 3 months after she was found unresponsive in her hotel room in El Segundo.
We really never said goodbye. Thought we'd give it one.
She was found at 6:15 in the evening. She was 53 years old. After 3 months of autopsy and toxicology investigation, her family released an official statement confirming the cause of death as hypertensive heart disease and enlarged heart that had gone undetected for years. She never got to see the tribute the world finally paid her.
You'll always be the one for me.
Number 11, Tony Thompson of High Five, I Like the Way the Kissing Game, 1991. He was 15 years old when the song went to number 1. 15, a teenager from Waco, Texas, standing at the top of the Billboard Hot 100 with a voice that felt twice his age, and the world had absolutely no idea what was waiting on the other side of it. Tony Thompson started singing solos in his local church choir at the age of 8. By the time he was in his early teens, he had connected with a group of childhood friends, Russell Neal, Toriano Easley, Roderick Clark, and Marcus Sanders, who would sign with Jive Records in 1990 as High Five. Their debut album was produced by the legendary Teddy Riley, the architect of New Jack Swing, and it went platinum almost immediately. I Like the Way, The Kissing Game hit #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 in 1991, and here is the fact that makes it historic. That single holds the distinction of being Billboard magazine's 1,000th #1 record in the chart's history. What should have been a launchpad became a trap.
But I know our love will always be there.
The group disbanded in 9. Thompson attempted a solo career, signed briefly with Bad Boy Records, and eventually drifted back to Waco. He never recaptured the commercial footing that should have been his.
We've got it good. We have it all, it seems.
On June 1st, 2007, Tony Thompson's body was found outside an apartment complex in Waco. He was 31 years old. The autopsy confirmed the cause of death as toxic inhalation, the lethal effects of huffing Freon gas from air conditioning units. The same city that produced him, the same Texas heat that surrounded those units, took him back. He died 4 days after what would have been his 32nd birthday. The fans who danced to his voice in 1991 were only beginning to realize he had ever been gone. Number 10, Melvin Franklin of the Temptations' Papa was a Rolling Stone 1972.
That was the day that my daddy died.
He had the deepest bass voice in popular music. Not one of the deepest. The deepest. When Melvin Franklin opened his mouth, it sounded like the floor of the earth decided to speak.
Never got a chance to see him. Never heard nothing but.
Born David Melvin English in Montgomery, Alabama in 1942, Franklin was raised by his grandmother before moving to Detroit, where he met a young Otis Williams and became one of the founding members of what would eventually become the Temptations. He took his stepfather's surname as his stage name, and for more than 3 decades, that name appeared on some of the most celebrated records in the history of Motown.
I heard nothing but bad things about him. Mama, I'm depending.
Papa Was a Rolling Stone was a masterpiece. Written and produced by Norman Whitfield, the song opens with nearly 4 full minutes of nothing but groove bass, guitar, wah-wah, trumpet, strings building like a storm approaching slowly from the horizon.
Mama, I'm depending on you. Tell me the truth. Mama just hung her.
When the voices finally arrive, each temptation carries a verse. Dennis Edwards delivers his lead with a pained restraint that feels almost conversational. But it is Franklin's moment a single line, delivered at the song's emotional center that has gone down in musical history.
And mama, some bad talk going around town saying that Papa had 3 outside children.
And the band played on. 4 words. 1 bass voice. The entire song changes weight the instant he delivers it. The record won the Grammy Award for Best R&B Song and Best R&B Vocal Performance by a duo or group in 1973.
Had children and another wife, and that ain't right.
In his final years, Franklin performed with a wheelchair and an oxygen tank waiting for him in the wings. He had been battling rheumatoid arthritis, diabetes, and seizures for years. His best friend and fellow founding member, Otis Williams, urged him to step away from the road. But Franklin, the most loyal member the group had ever had, kept showing up until his body would not allow it anymore.
Talking about saving souls and all the time leeching. Dealing in that.
He fell into a coma and died on February 23, 1995, at the age of 52, of a brain seizure. He is buried at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Hollywood Hills. Otis Williams, the last surviving original Temptation, has never stopped speaking his name. Number 9, Jackie Wilson, Lonely Teardrops, 1958.
My heart is crying, crying, lonely teardrop.
Before Michael Jackson had a moonwalk, before James Brown had a cape routine, before any of it, there was Jackie Wilson, spinning, splitting, rising from his knees without missing a single syllable, on stages where women fainted and rushed past security to get close to him.
Just say you will, say you will.
He earned the nickname Mr. Excitement before the phrase had ever been applied to a performer in that way, and he earned it every single night. Jackie Wilson was born in Detroit in 1934, a former amateur boxer with a 4-octave vocal range and a stage presence that music writers have spent 60 years struggling to describe.
Just say you will, say you will.
Lonely Teardrops was written for him by a then unknown songwriter named Berry Gordy years before Gordy founded Motown Records, and it hit number 1 on the R&B chart in 1958. The song reached number 7 on the pop chart and was the defining breakthrough moment of Wilson's career. It established him as one of the most electrifying presences and Gordy later used the royalties from his work with Wilson as seed money to launch the label that would change everything.
Come home, come home.
On September 29, 1975, while performing at the Latin Casino in New Jersey, Jackie Wilson collapsed on stage mid-song. He had suffered a severe heart attack. He fell and struck his head on the stage, causing serious brain damage from which he never recovered.
Just give me another chance.
He spent the remaining 8 years of his life in a coma and then in nursing care. He died on January 21, 1984, in Mount Holly, New Jersey. He was 49 years old. He was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1987.
You know my heart does nothing but burn.
His star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame stood for years without proper upkeep in a neighborhood that had long since moved on. Jackie Wilson deserved every standing ovation he ever received. He deserved 100 more. If Jackie Wilson opened the door, the next artist walked through it with a voice unlike any the world had ever heard. Number 8, Minnie Riperton, Lovin' You, 1974.
Loving you is easy 'cause you're beautiful.
Stevie Wonder sat beside her in the studio for days. He played keyboards, he played harmonica, he produced. And the story of how the song they made together came to exist is one of the most quietly beautiful facts in the history of soul music.
The day of my life is filled with love and you.
Minnie Riperton was born in Chicago in 1947, and trained from childhood in classical voice at Chicago's Lincoln Center. By the time she was a teenager, she had studied operatic technique and developed a 5-octave vocal range, the same range she would one day use to leave audiences completely silent, reaching notes that seemed to belong to another atmosphere.
Everything that I do is out of love and you.
After years as a session singer and the lead vocalist of psychedelic soul group Rotary Connection, she eventually joined Stevie Wonder's touring and recording family Wonder Love, singing backup on his landmark 1974 album Fulfillingness's first finale.
Stay with me while we grow old and we will live each.
Wonder then agreed to co-produce Riperton's album Perfect Angel. He asked Minnie and her husband, songwriter Richard Rudolph, for their most embarrassing song. They offered him a soft, barely finished lullaby they had been singing to get their 2-year-old daughter Maya to sleep, a song so gentle and private they had never thought of recording it. That song was Lovin' You. Near the end of the final version, you can hear Minnie quietly singing the name Maya. On April 5th, 1975, Lovin' You reached number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. It went number 1 in over 20 countries.
Loving you, I see your soul come shining through.
9 months later, Minnie Riperton was diagnosed with breast cancer. She underwent surgery and chose to go public with her diagnosis, one of the first celebrities in history to do so, becoming a national spokesperson for the American Cancer Society and receiving a Courage Award from President Jimmy Carter.
Maya, 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 la, 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 la.
Her doctors gave her 6 months to live. She lived 3 more years. On July 12, 1979, at 10 in the morning, while lying in her husband's arms in their Los Angeles home, Minnie Riperton died while listening to a recording Stevie Wonder had made especially for her. She was 31 years old. Her daughter, Maya Rudolph, later named her own 4th child Minnie in her honor. Not every legend leaves quietly. The next artist lived exactly the way he made the music go. Number 7, Rick James, Super Freak, 1981.
She's a very kinky girl, the kind you don't take home to mother.
He was a 15-year-old kid from Buffalo, New York, who joined the Naval Reserve to get off the streets, went AWOL when his drill schedule conflicted with his music career, and fled to Canada, where he kept performing until the charges caught up with him years later.
She will never let your spirits down once you get her off the street.
That was the kind of man Rick James was, someone who always found a way to keep the music going, no matter the consequences. James spent years developing his sound at Motown Records, first as a songwriter and then as a performer, crafting what he called punk funk, a dense, bass-heavy merger of hard rock energy and R&B groove that nobody else was making.
She likes the boys in the band. She says that I'm her all-time favorite.
Super Freak was released in 1981 on his album Street Songs, and it hit the top 5 on the Billboard Hot 100, becoming the anthem of a generation. He almost did not release it. He was not sure the track was ready.
When I make my move to her room, it's the right time. She's never hard to please.
The bass line, the call and response of the Mary Jane Girls' backing vocals, the relentless groove James' second, guessed the whole thing right up to the moment it became inescapable on every radio station in America.
Girl is pretty wild now. Girl's a super freak. The kind of girl you read about.
In 1990, MC Hammer sampled the Super Freak bass line for You Can't Touch This without clearing it first. The song became one of the best-selling singles in history. James sued, won, and received full songwriting credit, meaning every time You Can't Touch This played at a sporting event, a graduation, a wedding, or a school gymnasium for the next 30 years, Rick James got paid.
She's a super freak, super freak. She's super freaking now.
He was found dead in his Hollywood home on August 6, 2004. He was 56 years old. The Los Angeles County coroner confirmed the cause of death as acute cardiac dysfunction due to an enlarged heart, with pneumonia and the effects of multiple drugs listed as contributing factors.
She's a very special girl. From her head down to her toenail.
9 different substances were found in his system. He had been battling diabetes, had a pacemaker, had survived a stroke, and had carried a decades-long addiction, that he had spoken about with painful honesty in interviews.
Can't you wait for me backstage with her girlfriends in a limousine?
Just 4 months before his death, he had appeared on Chappelle's show, laughing at himself, still working, still full of life. He left behind a catalog that shaped hip-hop, funk, and R&B for generations.
When I get there, she's got incense, wine, and candles. It's such a freaky scene.
By the time Rick James was gone, the music world had already lost one giant, but the stories still ahead are even more difficult to tell. We are halfway through this countdown, and one thing becomes impossible to ignore. The music survived. The voices survived.
You turned around and had me for
The memories survived. But every artist we've talked about so far left behind a future we never got to see. Some were taken suddenly. Some fought battles nobody knew they were carrying. And some spent years trying to outrun tragedies that eventually caught them. If these stories mean something to you, take a moment to like the video, subscribe to Retro Vinyl, and tell us in the comments which artist has stayed with you all these years.
Hey mama, I heard Papa call himself a jack of all trades.
Because the second half of this countdown contains some of the most heartbreaking stories in soul music history. Let's continue. Number 6, Teena Marie, Lover Girl, 1984. She was the only white artist ever signed to Motown Records who wrote, produced, and performed her own music from the very beginning, and she did it so convincingly that for years, listeners who heard her voice on the radio assumed she was black.
I need your love, and I won't bring no pain. A little birdie told me.
Radio stations that did not know who she was refused to play her records after seeing her photo. She used to call herself Ivory Queen of Soul, and nobody who ever heard her sing had a reason to argue.
Feel the same game. I'm for the real, and for you I'm too blue.
Born Mary Christine Brockert in Santa Monica, California in 1956, Teena Marie was discovered by Rick James, who became her mentor, her creative collaborator, and her closest friend in the music industry.
Make a deal, sugar, all I wanna do is be your one and all.
James introduced her to Berry Gordy. She signed to Motown, and the two recorded together so often and so naturally that fans assumed for years they were romantically involved. They were not. They were something rarer artists who genuinely elevated each other.
I just want to rock your world.
Lover Girl was released in 1984 and became her biggest pop crossover hit, reaching number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100 and number 3 on the R&B chart. The song was built on a groove so warm and so confident that it sounded like someone in love and completely at peace with it, which, for Teena Marie, was never quite the full picture.
Second verse, my dear, big old hat, but don't think that I don't know.
She fought Motown in court over the right to record for another label. She won. The case produced what became known in the music industry as the Brockert Initiative, a California law preventing record labels from holding artists to contracts indefinitely without releasing new product.
Baby, let me groove you. Baby, let me rock you.
It was one of the most significant legal victories for recording artists in the state's history, and most people who listen to Lover Girl have never heard that story. Teena Marie died on December 26, 2010. In her home in Pasadena, California, she was 54 years old.
Think that I don't know what I'm feeling for you, 'cause I got a vibe.
The cause of death was determined to be a grand mal seizure related to a previously undetected vascular condition, likely connected to a head injury she had sustained months earlier after a picture frame fell on her while she slept. Rick James had already been gone 6 years by then. They were supposed to outlast all of it together.
I just want to rock your world.
Some artists leave behind songs. The next artist left behind an entire sound. Number 5, Roger Troutman of Zapp, I Want to Be Your Man, 1987. He invented a sound, not contributed to it, not popularized it, invented it. The talk box, that robotic, vocal meets instrument technique that runs through decades of funk, hip-hop, and R&B like a single unbroken wire, was Roger Troutman's signature. When you hear it on California Love by Tupac and Dr. Dre, when you hear it sampled in Keep Ya Head Up, when you hear it echoed in the work of Kanye West, Bruno Mars, or T-Pain, you are hearing the ghost of Roger Troutman.
Every time I see you walking by, I get a free.
I Want to Be Your Man was written by Roger and his brother, Larry Troutman, in a hotel room in Dallas. Roger had been thinking about the subject the way men struggle with the gap between what women want and what men are willing to say, and told Larry exactly what he wanted the song to feel like. They wrote it together in one sitting, flew back to Dayton, Ohio, and went straight into the studio. The song hit number 1 on the R&B chart in 1987. The peak of Roger's solo career, under the name Roger, his voice filtered through the talkbox on that record sounds like tenderness processed through a machine, vulnerable and mechanical at the same time, which was exactly the point. On the morning of April 25th, 1999, Roger Troutman was found shot and critically wounded outside his recording studio on Salem Avenue in Dayton. He had been shot multiple times in the torso. He died during emergency surgery at Good Samaritan Hospital. He was 47 years old. His brother Larry, 54, was found dead a few blocks away in his car with a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. A handgun found inside the vehicle matched the description of the car seen leaving the scene. Police believe the shooting was preceded by a financial dispute connected to their shared business. The motive was never formally confirmed. 3,000 people attended the joint funeral at Solid Rock Church in Monroe, Ohio, among them Bootsy Collins, the Gap Band, and members of the Ohio Players, all standing in the same room, trying to understand how two brothers who built something extraordinary together had ended it this way. His death shocked the music world, but the next story is perhaps the most heartbreaking of them all. Number 4, Phyllis Hyman, Living All Alone, 1986.
There used to be a time in my life when we were lovers.
She stood 6 feet tall, had a contralto voice that could make a room go completely still, earned a Tony Award nomination for her performance in the Broadway musical Sophisticated Ladies, appeared in a Spike Lee film, and spent the last decade of her life fighting a private war that the industry around her either could not see or chose not to address.
We share this apartment together, just us two.
Phyllis Hyman was born in Philadelphia in 1949 and raised in Pittsburgh, where she began performing in local clubs before relocating to New York City, where she was discovered by producer Norman Connors and signed to Buddha Records in the late 1970s.
Think of how we planned to get married. Sing along how I used.
Her move to Philadelphia International in 1986 brought her the hit She Deserved Living All Alone, a song whose lyrics described a woman navigating her independence with a bittersweet kind of freedom. The song reached the R&B Top 20. The words, Hyman later admitted, were closer to autobiography than she let on in interviews at the time.
Oh, I can't stand this living.
Hyman suffered from bipolar disorder, a condition that went largely unaddressed and was never publicly disclosed during her lifetime. She also battled addiction to alcohol and cocaine, which compounded the depression that surrounded her.
I'm not even the same, I'm a different girl.
She appeared on the Arsenio Hall show and told the audience plainly, with no script and no warning, that she was lonely, that she was unhappy. The audience was quiet in a way that felt different from respect. It felt like recognition.
Yesterday I was somebody's baby, now today I'm home.
On June 30th, 1995, just hours before she was scheduled to perform at the Apollo Theater in New York City, Phyllis Hyman was found unresponsive in her apartment. She died 2 hours later at St. Luke's Roosevelt Hospital. She was 45 years old.
It's good to have somebody hold you tight.
She left behind a note. It read, "I am tired. I am tired. Those of you that I love know who you are. May God bless you." The last album she had been working on was released posthumously in November 1995. It was titled, "I Refuse to Be Lonely." She co-wrote every song on it.
Who will end all my long and lonely night?
If you or someone you know is struggling, please reach out to the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline by calling or texting 988. Phyllis Hyman deserved more support than the world gave her. So does anyone carrying what she carried. The next artist inherited a legendary name, but built a legacy that belonged entirely to him.
You'll be so sorry, baby, if we were to ever part.
Number 3, Gerald Levert, Baby, Hold On To Me, 1992.
All your friends are telling you should have a fancy car.
Imagine growing up hearing your father's voice pour out of the speakers of every radio in the house and then discovering that your own voice sounds almost exactly like his. That was Gerald Levert's reality.
Girl, you know all good things come in time.
The son of Eddie Levert, lead singer of the legendary OJs, Gerald had music in his DNA from birth. He formed the R&B trio Levert with his brother Sean and childhood friend Mark Gordon in the mid-1980s, scoring with hits like Casanova before stepping out as a solo artist in 1991 with his debut album Private Line.
Girl, you know I do just about anything.
Baby Hold On To Me was Gerald's first solo number 1 on the R&B chart, released in January 1992, a father and son duet that placed Gerald's voice alongside Eddie's for the first time on record.
You smile on your face. Don't let your friends go.
2 generations of Levert. 2 versions of the same voice. The song reached number 1 on the R&B chart and crossed over to number 37 on the pop chart.
Girl, you know there ain't nothing now.
Female fans who attended Gerald's concerts were so devoted that they would rush the stage to grab and sometimes wrestle over the teddy bears he would toss into the audience mid-performance. He threw himself into every show with a completeness that was almost reckless, and audiences felt it every time.
And baby, don't don't ever doubt my love.
Gerald Levert died in his sleep at his home in Cleveland, Ohio on November 10, 2006. He was 40 years old. The official cause of death was acute combined drug intoxication from a combination of prescription pain medications and over-the-counter drugs, along with pneumonia.
Baby, hold on to me. See, I'm a special kind.
He had no known history of deliberate drug abuse. Friends and family described the situation as a tragic accumulation of medications prescribed for pain management. His father, Eddie Levert, buried two sons, Gerald in 2006 and Sean in 2008.
Man, that is hard to find. Told you 1,000 times. Baby, hold on.
Atlantic Records called Gerald's voice one of the greatest of our time. The son who sounded like his father, gone at the same age, his best records had barely finished being discovered.
Oh, baby, 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 hold on.
Few comebacks in music history were as inspiring as the story you're about to hear.
Taking the bumps and the bruises and all the things of a two-time loser.
Number 2, Teddy Pendergrass Love, TKO, 1980.
Looking back over my years, I guess I shed some tears.
He was the first black solo artist in music history to have 5 consecutive platinum albums, 5 in a row.
I told myself time and time and time again, this time I'm gonna win.
Beginning with his 1977 debut and running straight through to It's Time for Love in 1981, Teddy Pendergrass was unstoppable, a Philadelphia soul god with a baritone so rich and so commanding that even Luther Vandross cited him as an inspiration.
But another fight, things ain't right, I'm losing again.
He sold out concerts for women only. Not capped, not suggested women only. Rooms full of screaming, devoted women who threw roses and hotel keys onto the stage while he sang, and Pendergrass received every bit of that energy without breaking a single note.
Takes a fool to lose twice and start all over again.
The song's hook, Love TKO, uses a boxing metaphor to represent the feeling of being defeated by love and the painful decision to leave a damaging relationship. It has appeared in various media, including the video game Grand Theft Auto, Vice City Stories, and an Air Jordan commercial.
Looks like another love TKO, baby. Oh.
Love TKO was released in 1980 as part of his album TP and became one of the defining slow jams of the era, a song about losing a romantic battle with such elegant dignity that the defeat itself sounded beautiful.
I can take control of the love took control of me.
The song reached number 2 on the R&B chart. Gamble and Huff produced it at Sigma Sound in Philadelphia with the same meticulous attention they brought to every Philadelphia international record. And Pendergrass sang it like a man who knew exactly how much it cost to love someone completely.
Me to lose all thought and all sense of time. I had a change of mind.
On March 18th, 1982, Pendergrass was returning from a basketball game in his Rolls Royce when the vehicle skidded and struck a dividing barrier on Lincoln Drive in Philadelphia. The accident damaged his spinal cord and left him paralyzed from the chest down.
Trying to hold on, faith is gone. It's just another sad song.
His doctors told him he had 10 years to live. He said in a later interview, "I thought this was short-term to death. I didn't know. So I look at everything as positive as I can." He returned to recording in 1983. He performed at Live Aid in 1985.
She looks like to me another.
He founded the Teddy Pendergrass Alliance, a nonprofit supporting quality of life for people living with spinal cord injuries. He continued releasing music, continued showing up, continued giving what he had left. Teddy Pendergrass died on January 13th, 2010, of complications from colon cancer. He was 59 years old. He lived 28 years past the prognosis his doctors gave him. He used every single one.
I know sometimes we don't want to admit to it, but we got it.
And now we come to the artist whose loss still feels impossible to accept. Number 1, Aaliyah, Try Again, 2000.
What would you do to get to me? What would you say to have your way? Would you get
She told her boyfriend she did not like the plane. She said it in a message in the last exchange they had before she boarded. He remembered those exact words years later on national television. And she got on anyway because she had finished early and she wanted to get home.
Would you give up or try again? If I hesitate to let you in, now would you be
Aaliyah Dana Houghton was born in Brooklyn on January 16, 1979, and raised in Detroit, where she attended the Detroit School of Performing Arts. By the time she was 10 years old, she had appeared on Star Search. By 12, she had a record deal. By 15, she was one of the most recognizable young voices in R&B and one of the first victims of a man who should have been in prison.
to be yourself or play a role? Tell all the boys or keep it low. If I sing
R. Kelly secretly married Aaliyah when she was 15 years old. Her parents discovered the marriage and had it annulled. Aaliyah never spoke publicly about the relationship in depth, but she separated herself from it as completely as she could, rebuilt her image, and partnered with Timbaland and Missy Elliott for her second album, One in a Million, a record that sold 8 million copies worldwide and rewrote what R&B production could sound like.
below. If I say no, would you turn away or play me off? Or would you stay?
Try Again was released in 2000 as part of the soundtrack to her film Romeo Must Die, and it accomplished something no song in Billboard history had ever done before. It reached number 1 on the Hot 100, based entirely on Airplay Zero physical sales factored in, purely the number of times radio stations played it across America in a single week.
Dust yourself off and try again. You can dust it off and try again. Try.
She was the first artist in Billboard history to achieve that. The song made her finally and completely a global superstar. Her self-titled third album, released in July 2001, debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200 and sold 187,000 copies in its first week, the biggest opening week of her career.
To you, you into me, but I can't let it go so easily. Not till I see.
On August 25, 2001, Aaliyah and 8 members of her team boarded a twin-engine Cessna 402B at Marsh Harbor Airport in the Bahamas to fly back to Florida. She had finished filming a music video early and decided to leave the day ahead of schedule.
Not till I see what this could be eternity or just a week.
The plane was later determined to have been overloaded by 700 pounds. The pilot was found to have cocaine and alcohol in his system. The aircraft crashed and burst into flames approximately 200 feet from the end of the runway, seconds after takeoff.
I don't wanna throw it all away. I might be shy on the first day. What about the next day?
Aaliyah was 22 years old. She never got to see what she would have become. She was already becoming it. "12 artists, 12 songs, and 12 reminders that greatness is never measured by how long someone lives."
We really never said goodbye. Thought we'd give it one.
Some of these legends were gone before they reached their prime. Some spent their final years fighting illnesses, injuries, addictions, or personal struggles that few people ever fully understood.
Loving you has made my life so beautiful.
Yet every one of them left behind something extraordinary. A voice. A performance. A record that still reaches people decades later.
I don't never try, only teardrop.
The truth is, we never really know how much time anyone has. That's why the music matters. Because long after the headlines fade, long after the concerts end, and long after the artists themselves are gone, the songs remain.
Hey mama, I heard Papa call himself a jack of all trades.
And every time one of these records starts playing, their story begins again. This is Retro Vinyl. Thank you for spending this time with us. Now tell us in the comments, which soul legend on this list do you still miss the most? And until next time, keep the needle on the record and the volume where it belongs.
That's some good whistling. My mother's a terrific whistler. I learned it from her.
Oh, that's amazing.